In 1914, when Turkey entered the First World War, it was called the Ottoman Empire because it controlled an empire and was ruled by the Ottoman dynasty. The Ottoman Empire had once been one of the most powerful empires in the world, but was now a declining power. Failure to modernize and reform had left the state and military dangerously out of date and unable to stand up for itself against the other great powers, which made it reliant on the backing of another great power, like Britain or France. In fact, as of 1914, the Ottoman Navy didn't have a single modern battleship, and throughout the 19th century, the empire had earned the nickname, the Sick Man of Europe. Turkey was also in massive debt to the European powers, and its economy was in shambles as a result of lack of reform and damaging military defeats. This all left the Ottoman Empire in 1914 in absolutely no position to go to war. Now that you hopefully understand the problems the empire was facing, it's time to meet the people in charge who wanted to fix these problems and how they ended up steering Turkey towards war. In 1908, a group of Turkish nationalists called the Young Turks overthrew the Ottoman Sultan and his government with the support of the military, forcing him to become a figurehead. The Young Turks wanted to reverse Turkey's fortunes by introducing much-needed reform, throwing off the yoke of the European powers and restoring the empire to its former glory. In the leadership of the Young Turks and the Ottoman government, three important figures emerged: Talat Pasha, Cemal Pasha, and Enver Pasha. Pasha being a title, not a surname. These men completely controlled the Ottoman government, and although their ideas for Turkey sound positive, their actions would have disastrous consequences. The Young Turks realized that for their rule to be secure and to be able to push through the reforms that they needed, they couldn't afford to lose any more wars. The Young Turks also knew that they needed the support of another European power for this. So in 1911, when Italy invaded the Ottoman province of Libya, the Young Turks turned to Britain, who had traditionally supported Turkey. However, Britain refused. After this, attempts to forge an alliance with France, Germany, and even the empire's greatest enemy, Russia, all failed. However, with the beginning of the First World War in the summer of 1914, things changed in the empire's favour, and Germany suddenly became very interested in an alliance and Turkish entry into the war against Russia. However, the Young Turks made it clear that they would not be providing any military assistance, and war was exactly the thing they were trying to avoid. But the Germans made it clear what they wanted. So instead, the Young Turks decided to try to swindle Germany into an alliance with them. Talat Pasha offered to give Germany a massive battleship that was still being built in Britain once it was finished. Germany accepted and agreed to form the alliance. But what the Germans didn't know was the battleship had already been confiscated by the British for their own navy a few days earlier, and when they realised, it was too late and the negotiations had already been finalised. And why didn't Germany just break off the alliance? Well, it seems that the Germans actually believed that the Young Turks genuinely intended on giving them the battleship. So far so good. The Young Turks had secured an alliance with a great power without actually having to give anything in exchange. In fact, things got even better for the empire when the Young Turks got Germany to agree to Turkey renouncing all debt it was in to all foreign powers, and there wasn't much anyone could do about it since they were all locked in World War I, and also managed to blackmail Germany into giving them two shiny new battleships that got cornered into Istanbul by the British. Things were going fantastic for Turkey, and perhaps they could have stayed that way. But sadly, that was not the way things went, and instead the will of Enver Pasha would prevail. As I mentioned before, Enver Pasha was one of the three important leaders in the Ottoman government. An ambitious, rash, and extremely arrogant man, Enver was the Minister of War and believed that by staying out of the war, the Ottoman Empire was missing a golden opportunity. He formed a faction in favour of joining the war in the government, but neutrality had served Turkey well, and there was also the fact that the empire couldn't actually afford to mobilise its army, and so the pro-war faction wasn't able to gain much support. Seeing this, Enver decided that he would force the empire into war. On the 29th of October, Enver hatched a plan with the Germans, in which the two recently acquired Ottoman battleships, still manned by the German sailors and commanded by a German admiral, bombarded the Russian coastline, provoking war with Russia, and dragging the Ottoman Empire into the mire of World War I. In return, Germany sent Turkey a boatload of money to help pay for mobilization. These actions that brought Turkey into the war would cause the complete collapse of the empire. In the next video, we'll see how Turkey fares in World War I, and watch as Enver Pasha stumbles from one blunder to another.